What got me into coaching is just pouring into young people, man. Just pouring into young people. I love to see young people succeed. You know what I mean? I would say that being that I couldn't get to the highest level, like I always had hopes of going to the NFL, potentially helping kids achieve that dream, man, it's the same to me. That's what I feel like that's what got me into coaching. Yeah, man, it was surreal. Honestly, I couldn't believe it. I really remember like it was yesterday. It was March of 2022. Um, I just felt sick. You know, I felt sick. I was throwing up. I really had like symptoms similar to COVID, that which led me to go get a COVID test. And the COVID test came back negative, and I was just feeling sick. I got a flu test, came back negative, so I just felt like I was just fighting a real bad cold. You know, went outside, get some vitamin C, run around a little bit. Couldn't really shake it, man. But I remember one day I was training a client early in the morning. When the training client, it was max day leg day, and I just felt real bad, man. I couldn't. I told him I had to end the session. Long story short, man, I ended up passing out. I go to the hospital. They're like, you know, all my vitals are fine. You know, they check my blood pressure. You know what I'm saying? They check my heart rate. All my vitals are fine. But it was a lady. I call her my angel. She walks by the room. She's a nurse. She walks into the room. She looks at me. I look at her. I don't know who she is. And she's like, "Hey, had they checked your ejection fraction of your heart?" I was like, "No." She asked the nurses that was in my room to check the ejection fraction of my heart. Once they did that, I was then deemed that my percentage of my heart function was at 10%. So my ejection fraction of my heart was 10%. And this was like a really dire situation. So once they got that information, they immediately put me in the ambulance and rushed me to the cardiac hospital. So once I got to the cardiac hospital, they retested and they confirmed that I was on 10% for sure. And I mean, that was just surreal. I mean, I was fairly healthy at the time, you know what I mean, fairly in shape, good fitness level. You know, I eat pretty well. And they were like, "Yo, your heart is failing, like you need a heart transplant." I'm like, my parents was on the way to Charlotte, because I was actually about to do a kids camp with my friends that played the NFL, and they were already on the way to Charlotte. So I'm calling them like, "Yo, my heart is failing. Y'all need to step on to get here as soon as possible. I don't know what's gonna happen." So you can imagine, you know, what was going through their head. But yeah, man, figured that out. And we assumed that my heart was going to recover, but they told me that it never would, and I would need a heart transplant. So from that point, I was placed on the heart transplant list, and I had to just wait for a heart at that point. I was on the transplant list for like 3 weeks. I was in hospital for 4 weeks total. So I was on the heart transplant list for 3 weeks. A lot of people, man, they think that it was just, I got in there, I was sick, and I had a heart transplant. I actually had 7 surgeries in the midst of waiting on my heart transplant, because there was so many complications that went wrong in the midst. And that feeling of knowing that I had a heart, you really can't put it into words. Honestly, just feeling like just gratitude for real. Because I know before that, I was pretty much placed on hospice. I was in a really dire situation to where I had to be put on an ECMO machine. So what that machine does is it takes the blood from your veins, it oxygenates it, and it puts it back into your veins so you can have steady blood flow. So I was put on that machine because I was in a real bad situation. So once I got put on that machine, 2 days later, that's when the heart became available. And I remember the doctor coming in and telling me like, "Hey man, we got a heart for you. It's come in, it's a really strong heart, it's really compatible. Like, this is gonna be really good for you, man." I just bust out in tears. Me and my family just so happy because we was all there at the same time. And man, you know, they were like, "Hey, we doing this right now. Like, surgery is in the next 30 minutes. So I had to just get my mind right in there. Like, these people is gonna split me open, take my heart out and put another one in. Like, I had to come to terms with that all within 30, 20 minutes, you know what I mean? So I really can't describe that feeling, to be honest. Just joyful, gratitude, scared at the same time, you know. I've never been split open like that. So the surgery took about 7 to 8 hours. You know, I remember waking up, feeling crazy, feeling like I could hear my heart beating out of my body, like literally. Because I woke up with a tube down my throat, so I was panicking. I had my arms tied down, my legs tied down, so I couldn't pull it out of my mouth. And they just made me relax and things like that. And it was just a surreal, humble feeling, man. I had to relearn how to speak. I had to relearn essentially my motor skills. Like I didn't know how to walk, I didn't know how to speak, I couldn't write. So just relearning all of those things was really humbling for me, man, just starting from scratch all the way. That's why I feel like it's a second life for me, because I really started from scratch. And I remember finally speaking to my heart donor's family. His name was Lou Roper. His mom's name is Stacy Roper. And we were the same age, actually. He has a son named Parker. I'm just grateful for him and their family. I remember speaking to his mom for the first time. I actually spoke to her on my heart transplant anniversary on the phone, but we would write letters back and forth for the first couple months, just introducing ourselves, who we are, and then we finally exchanged information. I talked to her on the phone on my heart transplant anniversary, and that was just, I can't explain that feeling either, man, because I can't imagine what she's going through, losing a son. He had a son, a young son, but they gave me life. Like, he had to lose his life for me to gain mine. That's an interesting complex right there, man, but I'm just so grateful. So tonight we're doing our first annual Get At It Performance Lit Nights tournament here at Foundation Academy in Orlando, Florida, and it's just to support Luke and his family, his son. All the majority of the proceeds is going to be going to his family, but it's essentially just a 7-on-7 tournament. Through my business, Get At It Performance Training, there are going to be other teams here paying an entry fee, and there's going to be a reward money as well. But all the money from the gate, from concessions, and the money that's left over that we actually profit is going to go to his family. This is the first time I'm doing it. This will be the first annual, and I'm going to try to keep doing it at least once a month. Try to build it once a year, Try to build it twice a year, just to try to do something to help his family. The biggest thing for me is perspective. I think perspective shift was the biggest thing for me, like understanding that life can be taken just like that, right? Not to take things for granted, because oftentimes people, including myself, you don't realize the worth of things until they're taken away from you. So for me, I feel like my life is taken away from me. So for me to come back and not be grateful for that would be a disservice to myself. So perspective. A lot of people, we complain as humans about things that we have to do all the time. I gotta go to work. I don't feel like going to work. I don't feel like doing that. But the fact that you get another opportunity, you get another breath, my perspective has then changed to I get to do things, right? I get another opportunity to go to work. I get another opportunity to pour into these young men, these young women, so I don't take that for granted.
The impact Coach Irvin has had on my life is kind of weird and special at the same way. So I'm coming in to the first 3 games of my season, or first 2 games of my season at Lake Mary, and I'm looking for a trainer because I still want to get better during the season. I'm always looking to find another way to get better and beat my competition. And at first, my mom was skeptical about going training with him, and then I showed her a couple of videos of how he trains and the people he trains, and then finally trying him out one session, and I immediately just loved the work ethic he did. He didn't let me quit, and he just showed me, and he told me his story about him getting his heart transplant. That made me feel more attached and respect this man as a person, and just took off ever since. He's pretty funny, I ain't gonna lie. Once you get to know him, it's just when he wants you to work first, then we can laugh later. Because at the end of the goal is about you getting better instead of playing around. So it's not like he wants you don't get me wrong, it's still you're still supposed to have fun, but you still have to do what you got to do at the end of the day. So the thing I like about Coach Irvin is that the willingness that he's not ready to quit yet. Though his football career may have been shortened, and that he still does what he loves, on a daily basis, whether it's training somebody or having a 7-on-7 team. He's still doing something he loves, even though his life is prolonged a little bit. So I just feel like that's a big inspiration to me. It makes me want to hey, there's other people that has less fortunate options than you. So you just got to get your head down and then keep doing what you got to do.
Coach Denzel has had a big impact on my life. I came in here, he basically took me from the ground, coached me up. He's a great coach, but even a better person. He's funny, he'll be there for you when you need him the most. He's just a great guy all around.